Hang on just a second. There we go. So everybody, welcome to the August 3rd Thursday CARES webinar. So glad to have you here. My name is Alvin Cotton. I'm the database coordinator for the Georgia Council, but more importantly, I'm a person in long-term recovery. What that means to me is that it will be 23 years and 11 months that I have not felt the need to take a drink to deal with my anxiety, my loneliness, my depression, my isolation, or my legal problems. I work for recovery to make sure that every time someone seeks recovery, I want to peer across the table from them because we are the best help. So this webinar is called QPR Gatekeeper Training, Suicide Awareness and Prevention with Crystal Tolbert and Jennifer Hughes. QPR stands for Question, Persuade, and Refer. The three simple steps anyone can learn to help save a life from suicide. QPR gatekeepers instill hope and are the connectors of the chain of survival in those who may have no hope for living due to circumstances of life and feeling overwhelmed or alone. Like CPR, QPR is a system designed to increase the chances of survival in the event of a crisis, and it helps to improve self-efficacy and enhance hope by offering a personal belief in a positive outcome. After this training, peers will be able to recognize the warning signs of suicide, know how to offer hope, and know how to get help and save a life. This will be an interactive webinar, so we're going to ask for your engagement and participation. So please keep your microphone on mute if you aren't speaking. As the host, I will mute people as needed. Everyone who remains until the end of the webinar will receive 1.5 CEUs. You will receive a certificate from me, Alvin Cotton, to go out probably next week. Anyone who shows up more than 15 minutes later has to step away for that long, may continue to attend the webinar, but you may not receive credit. And the certificate will go out likely next week. It will go to the email that you registered with. So make sure that you know what email you used to webinar to register for the training. And you should make sure that the name on your screen matches the name you want on your certificate. If you are using somebody else's login, there will only be one listing in our database when we go to get certificates. So you need to let us know if you're sharing a login or if someone is there with you and you both want credit. That's the only way we'll be able to get certificates to everybody here. And you can put your pronouns in your name. You can change it to put in your CARES cohort. If you put your pronouns, that means we'll be able to address you correctly. All right, everybody, let's get started. I am going to do our first poll question. That's not the right one. Hang on just a second. It may be the right one. Let me find it. I am gonna, hang on just a second. That's not the right one.
I'll do it, Al.
Okay, thank you. There we go. Can y'all see that? I see the information coming in. That's great.
A lot of cares. A lot of aspiring cares. Okay.
That's great. We love everybody who gets in here. That is excellent. We have 47 out of 54 participants. Anybody else want to do it? We will have to close it in just a second. All right, let's close it. I can end it, Dwayne. Let's share the
Yep, I ended
results.
it.
There we
Oh,
go. Can y'all see the results? 78% of you are CARES or CPS. We have 8 aspiring cares, that's 16%, 1 clinician, 2 recovery allies, 7 mental health peers, 1 CPS parent, 5 forensic mentors. So that's not going to add up to more than 100% because sometimes people choose more than one entry. So did that go away?
yep, I stopped sharing it.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, so let's get growing. So today's presenters are CARES, Crystal Tolbert and Jennifer Hughes. Crystal is a person in long-term recovery since 2013 and is a certified CPSMH, CPSAD, and CPS parent. She currently has a private practice mental health facility, and her main focus is working with individuals struggling from trauma, grief, addiction recovery, and anxiety, with a passion for working with women and children in transitional shelters. She has also worked at Pinewoods Crisis Center and directed the Vine Addiction Recovery Center in Griffin. She's a certified QPR facilitator for suicide awareness training. Jennifer Hughes is the lead CPS at the Vine Addiction Recovery Center and is a CARES 46, well-versed in trauma-informed care and mental health first aid. She is a forensic peer mentor. She assists individuals who struggle with feelings of worthlessness or lack of desire to live and brings the power of compassion and tools of education and advocacy for those in recovery to gain hope and purpose for a renewed mindset of life. Crystal and Jennifer, we're so happy to have you here. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's so good to be here and so good to just be with my peers. I'm a peer first. I'm a therapist second, and it's just good to be back amongst you all. I am a long-term person in recovery of 13 and a half years, and what that means for me is I no longer choose to use brain-altering substances to numb my pain from physical and emotional abuse. And what that's done for me is allotted me into a new career, and to work with people who are less fortunate and also need assistance in recovery. So today, as you said, we have Jennifer who directs the Vine, and she's going to assist along with Alvin and Dwayne as we move forward in breaking the stigma of suicide awareness and prevention. This is a silent epidemic. So this is based off the QPR training facilitation that I do. And I know we just did one poll, but I want to go ahead and do that second poll. If you could put that poll out while I read the overview, Dwayne. So our objectives are going to be to talk about stigma and culture. We're going to look at the basic statistics in the United States. We're going to learn what it means to be an agent of hope for the person who's troubled with suicide. We're going to learn how to ask the question, what is that question about suicide? We're going to learn about what most of us know, we should know, about the risk and protective factors of suicide and the warning signs. But do we know the action steps? Do we know that we can even take those action steps? Then we'll learn what not to do, and we'll have a bunch of resources at the end to share with you all. And Alvin will share that. I'll let you know, Al, at the end what to share. It will be in the presentation. Okay, so if we could get that poll up, there we go.
People are answering the first question now. They're answering the second question. All of them are getting answers. Yay. We'll leave that up for just a minute.
Okay. So let's go ahead and move. So our first point of understanding is, and we're going to come back to that poll in a little bit. Our first point of understanding is defining suicide. What is the truth and what are the myths about suicide? Again, we'll look at statistics, we'll answer the poll, and we'll learn about being a hope agent. So Jennifer, if I can get you to read that suicide definition slide.
Yes, so suicide is defined as death caused by self-directed injurious behavior with intent to die as a result of the behavior. Suicide attempt is a self-directed, potentially injurious behavior with intent to die as a result of the behavior that does not result in death and may cause serious injury. Suicidal ideation refers to thinking about, considering, or planning suicide. It is important to avoid using terms that carry negative undertones, such as committing suicide, successful suicide, failed suicide, or acting out in suicide. An optional acceptable term is completion of suicide to indicate death caused by suicide.
Awesome. Going on to the myths and facts. And so we'll have Alvin and Jennifer. We're going to read what the myth is and then what the fact is for each set.
So the myth is suicide attempts always happen without warning.
And the fact is that very few suicide attempts are completely impulsive. Usually, a person has given it significant thought and has exhibited warning signs.
The myth is preventing suicide is impossible. Once someone makes up their mind about it, it's already too late.
The fact is, many people who are experiencing suicidal thoughts tend to exhibit warning signs. Intervening when these warning signs appear and connecting with someone experiencing suicidal thoughts and offering resources can be life-saving.
The myth is talking about suicide or asking someone if they're having thoughts of suicide will encourage them to attempt suicide.
The fact is that this is simply not true. Talking about suicide does not cause suicide. Engaging in a conversation with someone about suicide does not increase the likelihood that they will attempt suicide. Asking about suicide can normalize seeking help and show that you care. Start the conversation.
Awesome. So these facts came from NAMI.org. And what I want to do in the chat right now is if you'll go ahead and consider that 1, 2, and 3 on the myths and facts, and just type in the chat if either 1, 2, or 3 are still a question for you, if you still feel like it's hard to understand.
I'll see if anybody comes up with a chat response.
So I got a 2.
Christopher Sellers says that 3 can sometimes feel like a gray area.
Here. And somebody said number 2.
TJ says that number 2 that she's not sure about.
All right, so let's just take that one. And this is one we'll cover a little bit further in depth. Preventing suicide is possible. When we're talking about what suicide is, it's not a disease, it's not a root cause, it's a symptom of feeling overwhelmed. It's a symptom of having too many ideas of I can't go on. And when we talk about, well, what is it that we can recover from? What are the overwhelming things that we can recover from? That will help us to move forward in recovering from making it possible. Does that help? Okay. So let's move on. The basic facts about suicide, the basic statistics. Overall, suicide in the US remains nearly the same from 2022 to actually 2025 now. Statistics are pretty much the same, and that 14% of the US are dying from suicide ideation, from suicide completion. In 2023, men died by suicide almost 4 times more than women. This is a statistic most of us are aware of through trainings. This one too, firearm is typically more than half of the deaths in suicide. More than 90% of adults surveyed in the US think that it can be prevented at least some of the time. And here are some more statistics. These are from the CDC. We'll go to the next slide. There we go. This is by age group. Okay, and so if you look on the left and look on the right, it gives ages for female. On the right, it gives for male. And it only gives these 2 statistics for male and female. But again, that's from the CDC. So if you look on the right, it shows, and this is per year, you guys, 43% of men die at the age of 75 or older. Can you see that number? So it goes all the way down to 10, or adolescents, 10 to 14. And in 2025, the statistics are even lower. They're starting at age 5 now with suicide completion. Did you know our aging seniors are our highest male suicide completion? All right, go to the next slide. This is just a look at by race and ethnicity. And again, from the CDC, it gives what statistics they have. Hispanic, white, Black, Asian, and then that's American Indian or Alaskan Native. Again, we're seeing that the numbers are almost 4 times higher for men than women. And the next slide. This is showing what types or what methods of suicide completion are common. And as you can see, firearm is the most common. Are there any thoughts on why, if you want to put that in the chat, why women are significantly less on completing their suicide when they're attempting? And I don't know if there's anything coming through on the chat.
Nora Berger says that they're less likely to own a gun. Susie White says women might be more connected than men. Christopher Sellers wonders if it's because it's a less violent method of suicide.
Yeah, so I believe all 3 of those. Thank you, Alvin. I believe all 3 are correct. So men typically will go ahead and use a firearm, and the completion is usually final. Women choose less violent or less lethal means, and women are more connected in general. So that's great. Good job, you guys. All right, next slide. So this talks about the difference or the correlation between suicide rates and homicide rates. Look, it's a almost double. Suicide rates are almost double in comparison to homicide. That's a pretty high number.
Wow.
13, yeah. In fact, in the QPR training, it tells us that suicide rates are more than all the homicides and wars combined. And that number blows my mind. Okay, so let's go now to the answers to the poll, that second poll that we took.
All right, I'm finna share it. And they are shared.
It looks like everybody realized that the suicide prevention, that's everyone's job. That was 100% answered.
53% answered for the first question, how many individuals in the US die each year by suicide completion? We got 53% at 49,000. And following that, 37% at 120,000.
Nice.
And the last question, is it safe to ask an individual suffering with suicidal signs if they are thinking about killing themselves? 49% said always, 38% said sometimes, and 13% said never.
Fabulous. Okay, you guys did a good job. So we'll explain those right now. The next slide talks about that first question. And the answer is 49,000 people die in the US by suicide completion each year. That means 1 every 11 seconds. Can you think about what you do in 11 seconds? I can't even pop a K cup in 11 seconds. It's just profound. I can't ever wrap my head around these numbers, and it's important to know that's how much of an epidemic this is. And it's silent because we don't realize it. We don't talk about it. And it equates to 134 people a day in the US. Let's just think about that for a minute. If it's that many people dying from completion every day, what about how many people think about or attempt and don't make their completion? This says over 12 million people in the US seriously think about suicide. And they may be thinking about it for years or hourly. It could be consuming them. So this is also an epidemic. Almost 4 million make a plan, and 1.5 million attempt. So if you didn't know those numbers, that will probably sit with you for a while. And I hope it gives us motivation to know that, we got to do something. We got to do something to help each other. All right, the next screen. This is poll number 2. The answer is yes. Everybody, it is everybody's job to help prevent suicide and break the stigma, to bring awareness to one another. This is a journal from American Association of Suicidality entitled Why Suicide Prevention is Everybody's Job and How We Can Help. And there are 5 clear steps in here that tell us, and you can go back and pull that journal up. Everything on here is from websites online that are free to you. So you can pull up any of this information, and there will be resources at the end that you can screenshot and take for yourself. But the 5 fundamentals of suicide prevention from this American Association is educate yourself. So we're doing some of that today. Ask the question. We're going to learn what that means. Fight back against stigma. And again, that's being educated. That's learning the facts instead of the myths. Knowing what to do in a crisis. And this is another thing you can get in your trainings through CARES, through other CPS trainings. Exercise your civil rights. So there's lots of advocacy for suicide awareness. There's lots of advocacy that you can take to the Capitol, and lots of opportunity to do that. There's also a resource in here for that. The next slide talks about poll number 3. We are hope agents. We do need to ask the question, and we'll again learn what that means. So I'm just going to read this off to you. It's a false narrative and stigma binding to think that withholding and talking about suicide ideas, plans, or intentions can put it in someone's mind. They are either already thinking about it or they're not. Most people with suicidal plans are overwhelmed to the breaking point, and they have no answers or believe that there is nowhere to turn for help. And this is where those of us who are willing to bring hope to the light and the darkness to individuals struggling with suicide are facing. So in the face of adversity, we're going to be hope agents, and we're going to ask the question to save a life. All right, the next part. So I found this on a website recently from the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. And it gives us, there's many downloads on there. There's stories of hope on there. There's awareness for suicide research. There's brochures. There's all kinds of things on here. And there's, again, many other websites like this. But I found this one very interesting because it talks about hope and stories of hope. Also, 988 Lifeline website has stories of hope that you can share and read for yourself. Hope over stigma. Many people who are suicidal believe that they're beyond help. We are hope carriers. So let's discuss this. What are some reasons why individuals who are troubled don't seek help? What do you think the reasons why? So put that in your chat. Things like fear. I'll ask that again. What reasons do you think individuals do not seek help when they're feeling suicidal?
So Nevester Brewer says pride. Nora Berger says shame. So it's interesting that those two come up next to each other. Hopelessness is listed by Audrey Murphy. Belief that no one understands is what Selena Johnson says. Feeling alone came from Amanda Ryder. A lot of people are saying stigma, and Jenny Collins says embarrassment. Nevester also says isolation. So those are a lot of good answers. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Those are fabulous. And I have many of those written here in my notes. Hopelessness is huge. If we have no hope, what do we have? And this is why we keep pressing into the idea that we, all of us here today, are hope agents. We have a story. We have something that we can share. But more than that, we have the energy just to sit with someone and be in the presence with them to where they don't feel alone. That can give them hope to not feel alone. What if they don't have resources? What if they feel worthless? What if they have mental strains that they can't seem to overcome? And they don't know that there's help out there for that as well. Feeling like a burden is a huge issue too. Okay. So what do we do? How do we offer help in a situation? I'm going to go right back to that last slide real quick. Thank you. So giving help in a situation, we don't want to give them promises. We don't want to promise them that everything's going to be okay, because we don't know that, but we know that we can overcome eventually. We don't want to interrupt them while they're talking. We don't want to tell them what they need or what we think they need. We don't want to be fixers. We really want to be listeners and be present. Okay, you can go to that next one. Cultural understanding. This too is up for discussion. So what kind of fears do individuals face while with sharing their suicidality? So we talked about the reasons why they don't share. What kind of fears are in those sharing? Maybe they've had life experiences where people have ridiculed them. Maybe they've burnt bridges, or maybe people tell them, oh, you're just acting out. Maybe there's disapproval in the religious community that you're not allowed to have mental health struggles or suicidal thoughts. Maybe they're feeling dramatic or being told they're dramatic. Are there other things you can think of that people face culturally when dealing with suicide?
So someone has said being judged or being seen as weak, feeling like they're a burden to someone else, someone not taking them seriously, scared they'll be sent away, and fear of rejection or being misunderstood or judged, invalidation of feelings. That's what we have so far.
Awesome. Those are really good. And I wonder if people on here have been through this. If you've got loved ones who have been through this, if you're struggling right now, and I'm just going to disclose at this point, this is a good segue, that if anyone here is struggling or have someone that you know is struggling and it's on your mind, we will be available. I know I will be available, and who else can stay with me and leaders for 15 minutes after this webinar in case you need to talk. We'll also have our contact information if you need to reach us, because we don't want to leave you opened up vulnerably with this. It's very important that
also, if you're concerned about doing it in a group here, there's the 988 hotline also, right, Crystal?
Yes, sir. 988 24/7. You can call it, you can text it. Yes. Okay.
I'm also available to help at the end there, Crystal.
Thank you so much. Okay. And you wouldn't believe when I do these things, I typically have people at the end who just need to get some help or just get something off their chest, and that's okay. If you have to, that's good. So we're looking at people do face cultural things. We've got different religions. We've got all kind of backgrounds on here. We've got different family situations. Sometimes it comes from, let's say, father to son who says, don't be weak. Don't be, Alvin, you're going to say something?
Oh, well, there's a good comment in here by James Anderson also. He says when working with veterans, he says he's learned that traumatic events, trust, and a sense of purpose play a large part as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so you've got traumas, you've got mental health issues, maybe you've got physical issues. And culture can be very stigmatic on any of those. Financial, maybe someone's lost their job and now they feel their purpose is gone. And that's not a fact, but that's what they're feeling. And it's important just to sit with that person and let them talk it out and let them know they're not alone. Okay, so let's go to the next question. What stigmas can you identify in your own family? And I don't want you to write this down, but just think about that for yourself. Have you gone to a family reunion and you've noticed someone talking to someone in a berating way? If you notice someone struggling whom you might could have just sat with, think about your own family. Do you believe that suicide is preventable? And this was one of those questions from before. The answer is it is, but do you believe that it is? Let's move further on and see if we can work on that. Jennifer, can you read that for us?
Yeah. So it just takes just one question, one conversation, one person connecting to another, one active listener, one choice to be hope. Just one person can be the difference in helping save a life of an individual struggling with suicidality. And if you want to know some tips, there's some tips on this slide as well. So acknowledge the struggle, stop the stigma, provide support, and take care of yourself. Just being there, just asking the question. You don't know how much relief that puts on an individual who's struggling with suicide or
Very
thoughts
good.
of suicide.
Thank you. All right, so let's go into prevention. What does this mean? So we will watch a little video. It's about 10 minutes, and that's the one from PBS, Dwayne. And then we'll look at our risk factors, warnings, and action steps. Oh, I get to see all these beautiful faces. Look at you guys.
I know, it's great.
1 second, everybody. We're getting queued up. And just to remind y'all again, there will be an additional 15 minutes after this meeting has concluded for individuals who just want to stay on and kind of debrief on this heavy but definitely needed topic. Here we go.
Wayne, you may need to share your sound. Dwayne, did you hear me? I see you're restarting it. Yeah. Is it under audio where it says you can share sound?
Al, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but we're not hearing the video.
Got it.
Yeah, I think you have to share sound sometimes.
Share sound.
Is-
Okay.
I don't know if that's under audio. I don't think it's going to let me see the prompt unless I'm I'm the one sharing. It says test speaker and microphone, switch to phone audio. I know Zoom is difficult with getting some of this stuff working.
Well, let's see. What about now?
No, I'm not hearing her talk.
You can hear it?
I cannot. You have to enable the share computer sound option with the Zoom interface before starting the screen share. That's what it is. So stop the sharing and then go enable share computer sound. I don't have it pulled up. Let me see if I can get it. Thank you for your patience, guys. Sorry, this is
Can you hear it now?
No. It says you have to stop the sharing and then enable, what is it? Share computer sound within the Zoom interface before starting the screen share. So let's stop the share.
I did stop the share.
I have seen it the entire time, so I don't know if it's been stopped. Stop the screen sharing.
I'm not sharing my screen.
I can see it. Is that Crystal?
Yeah, maybe Crystal.
So Crystal, you may need to stop the sharing and then enable sound.
Nope, we can't hear it. And I can't figure it out on my end.
So try it now. Go to the Zoom app and see if you can enable share sound, enable share computer sound there. Sorry about this, guys.
Nope, I don't see it.
All right, Crystal, we may have to move on. Can you email me that link?
Yes.
I'll take a shot at it. I've heard this happen all the time in Zoom. It's there.
Okay, that's got me a little off, and I'm sorry, guys. Alvin, it is in that email. I guess you don't have that.
Yeah, I did get it. I was just having trouble finding it.
Okay.
Where is it? Crystal, do you want to talk about some other stuff and
Yeah,
give
I
us a
do. While you work
chance?
on that.
Yeah.
Okay. So Dwayne, if you don't mind putting us back on to slide number 20. Thank you guys for your patience, and this is how we move forward in life. Keep going. Let's see. All right. Here we go. So risk factors. Most of us understand what risk factors are. But the definition is they are characteristics or conditions that increase the chance that a person may try to take their life. These are not warning signs. These are like life situations. They are histories. They are factors. They're not. We'll go to warning signs in a minute. But this means that let's look at this: history of substance abuse, physical disability or illness, relationship problems, history of suicide attempts, or maybe attempts in the family. Maybe there's been a death by suicide in the family. Of course, mental health, substance abuse, bullying, that kind of thing, of course. Depression is the highest risk for suicidality. Other factors to consider are recovery-related issues such as physical health and financial issues. When we think about recovery, because we are cares, or most of us on here who deal with recovery, we think mostly about substance abuse, but there's all kinds of recovery. You could have physical, maybe you lost a limb, or maybe somebody's lost their ability to have regular sight. Work with clients who have, or veterans, and they've lost an eye altogether, or parts of their bodies. You're having trouble with the camera going in and out, someone said. What is going on here? Okay. Can everybody see the camera okay?
I believe it's her camera, not
Yeah,
yours.
it's her personal camera.
Okay, thank you. So risk factors, as we were saying before, it's what's going on around us: environmental, health, historical. Let's go to the next slide. This will be a discussion. So Jennifer, if you can watch the chat for discussion on this one. So suicide prevention, what we talk about in QPR training is suicide preventable? And it absolutely is. When we're talking about risks, if we can work on those risks, yes, a loss of a loved one, absolutely. If we work on the risk or the grieving or the process of recovering from our finances or the process of recovering from our mental health or recovering from, a divorce or whatever it is, if we can work on those processes, then that recovery is possible. Therefore, suicide is preventable. Remember that suicide is not a disease. It's not a root cause. It is a symptom of overwhelming issues. And this slide here gives us kind of an overview of suicide and all the things that underpin on that. So the question here is, and I want you to think about this for yourself: if recovery is possible, then suicide is preventable. Fill in the blank. So for me, I'll use mine for instance. If recovery of memory is possible, then suicide is preventable. So I am an overcomer of suicide attempt and ideation. I had years and years of that. One of the reasons why I do this training is because I'm an overcomer. And I had an accident in 2013 that took my ability to function. I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't use my upper right side or my lower left side. I lost use of my vocal cords. And my memory was totally wiped. I had no short-term, no long-term. I'm a walking miracle. I had to learn to speak again. I had to learn definitions again. And sometimes I still stutter or my voice will shake. The vocal cords are still, trying to work. I had to learn math. I had to learn that I had children and what their names were. So if recovery is possible from memory loss, then suicide is preventable. What's your if? Okay, next slide.
Jennifer, do you want me to try the sound again?
Yes, you can go ahead and try the slide sound again.
Let's see if this works.
All right.
Somebody in the chat said, if recovery of my family's relationships is possible.
And I remember sitting down by my daughter's crib one day, and I was just like, okay, if I don't talk to someone, my daughter is not going to have a mother. And I didn't want that for my daughter at all. I'm Shani Tran, and I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor. And I'm bringing together people with lived experience with suicide to share their stories, including my own. Today we're talking about, how do I ask for help? We're here to get to the hope and healing of it all. But if you're at home watching, I want you to take care. If you are considering suicide, or if you or someone you know is in an emotional crisis, please call or text 988. Before we get started, I wanted to ask the group, is there anyone here who has ever reached out for help in regards to their mental health?
Oh, yeah. That's why we're here, isn't it?
Yes.
Originally, before I kind of understood the mental health side, when I had first encountered depression, it was a lot harder. I didn't really understand, like, oh, this isn't a normal thing. Like, I knew something was wrong, but it wasn't known to me that I could really, reach out and start asking for help.
Does anyone else resonate with that?
I think when I reached out for help, I should have done so earlier. One night, I knew that if I continued to stay at home, I wouldn't be safe for the rest of the night. I kept it pretty brief, but all I said to my parents was, okay, I need to go to the hospital because I know that I am not safe for the rest of the night.
So when I first had suicidal ideation, I didn't ask for help. I knew that this shouldn't be the norm for me. Like, I just knew that something was wrong, but I didn't really know like how I can change it. Like, I didn't even see like a solution or like an out of navigating that irrational fear that I had.
I too have been in that position where it's hard to know when to reach out for help. I think that there are two pivotal moments in my life that I can go back to that brings up my own personal mental health when it comes to suicide. The first time was I graduate from college and life hits. You have student loans, you have bills, you have to figure out how to live life. My maladaptive coping skill was drinking. And it was a way for me to just sort of like flow and dance. But people, I don't think often recognize that you might feel happy when you're getting buzzed, but alcohol is a downer. So at the end of the night, that often left me with my thoughts alone, drunk, and that would lead to suicidal thoughts for me. And I wouldn't think that anyone cared about me, even though I just spent a night dancing with my friends, laughing. At the end of the night, I was alone. That's how I felt. I wanted the pain to end. For me, it wasn't about ending my life. I wanted the pain to end. I reached out to a friend. I didn't tell them why I was reaching out, which I think is important for people to hear, because it wasn't that I was like, hey, I want to do this. I want to take my life and I need you to come over. I just knew that I didn't want to be alone. So I had a really good guy friend at the time in college, and I don't even think he knows to this day why I called him over. And immediately he was like, yep, Shawnee, I'm there. And I just remember telling him, like, I'm scared. He stayed with me until I fell asleep. And that was my first experience with a suicide attempt.
How do you know when to reach out for help, though?
I feel like the time that you need help, verbalize basically to yourself that, like, I can't go on. Yeah. I can't do this alone. Like, at some point, I feel like I ran into that where it was like, I can't go on. And that's when the suicidal thoughts start to creep in.
Yeah.
And as soon as you recognize that, that's when it's time to ask for help. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's the hardest thing because oftentimes you don't want to ask for help. It's the last thing you feel like doing because it's almost like, man, I'm so low, I'm so down, I don't want to be here and I don't want to bother somebody else.
I think that asking for help looks like a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. For example, like, you may just want to hang out with a friend. You don't want to discuss what exactly is going on, but you just want to be with someone. Mm-hmm. So it's not directly like asking for help, but you know that it would help you and they would help you at the time. Because sometimes I'm not comfortable talking about what's going on, but I know that even if I'm there with them and they're with me, then I'll be okay and I'll be happy and I can manage my symptoms.
You don't always need to say what's going on. It's okay to call up a friend and say, hey, I'm struggling. Can we just go out? Do you want to go walk? Do you want to go to the park? Do you want to go do anything? Do you want to just talk to me for 5 minutes?
Yep.
And, sometimes, do you want to watch TV and just leave the phone on? There's so many ways to do it that can be done, that at least can somehow lift your spirits up for the day. Mm-hmm. But the point where you need to ask for help is when you start feeling like, I can't handle this on my own. Mm-hmm. That's a really big breaking point, I feel.
After I had my first child, I became a stay-at-home mom, and the isolation got to me. And I don't think anyone explained to me what it is like after you have a child. It's like, oh, babies are wonderful. You become a mother. And I feel like motherhood is almost romanticized in a way. And I go home and I just remember waking up and feeling isolated and lonely. And I remember sitting down by my daughter's crib one day and I was just like, okay, if I don't talk to someone, my daughter is not going to have a mother. And I didn't want that for my daughter at all. I wanted her to have a mother. I wanted her to wake up and be able to know that she had someone that cared about her. That was really important to me to work on myself so that I can be a better person for myself and my daughter. So I remember reaching out, finding a therapist, and looking back, honestly, we weren't a great fit for each other, but I just needed to get it out. I needed to talk to someone. That therapist at the time, she fulfilled her role in creating a safe place for me to get out my thoughts, and talk through it.
What would you say to someone who is afraid to ask for help? If you feel like it's a selfish thing, it's okay to be selfish. Yeah. Like, it is, especially when it comes to your personal well-being. But also, people are going to care what you have to say. And they're going to care about your well-being. And even if you think that nobody out there cares about you, you better bet your buttons that there is a decent amount of people out there who love and cherish you.
Coming from a personal experience, I feel like once I asked for help to other people, it also opened the door for other people to ask for help to each other as well.
Yeah.
So, like, even if you might be coming from like a more selfish feeling of asking for help, but at the end, it helps a lot of other people who might be going through similar things or also feeling like guilt or shame from trying to ask for help for different or similar things.
I would say that you are loved.
Yeah.
You are cared about. It's not a situation where they're going to turn you away. When you need help, sometimes you don't even need to say exactly what the situation is.
Yeah.
All you need to say is just, I'm struggling. I need help with something.
Yeah. And you have to give them the opportunity to help you and support you and love you.
I'm always healing. I don't think that it's linear. Sometimes you don't even know that you need to heal something until it's brought back up again. And what I would say to my younger self is that I love you. That's what's important, is that I love you. We are going to get through this together. You are crying and going through your emotions. That doesn't mean you're emotional. You're actually very strong. And I know you can't see it right now, but this adversity, it is going to make you into a good person. I get it. Asking for help is hard, and you may not be sure who can support you. But I think a great place to start is thinking about the people that you have in your life right now. Who would you call if you were having, say, a rough day at work, or if you just went through a breakup? And if you can't identify that person, knowing that you can call or text 988 24/7, it's free, and you can access it, and the people on that line are able to help you navigate suicidal thoughts with care and without judgment. Watch more of our discussions here on the PBS YouTube channel, and watch the Facing Suicide documentary on pbs.org or the PBS Video app.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being
That
diligent.
is such a good.
My name is Stephanie.
Hang on, sorry.
Licensed marriage and family therapist. Today, I'm going to be reacting to a video by.
That is such a good resource, Crystal. Thank you. I'm glad we were able to get it up.
Yes, me too. And I want to just kind of debrief a second, because this might have been really heavy for some of us on here. There were a lot of things in the chat going on. Let's see.
And Crystal, just a time check. We have about 30 minutes left.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Let's see. I have to get all the way down here. Did y'all find anything interesting in the chat you want to share? Let's see.
If someone wants to talk, raise your Zoom hand. You can do either one.
Yeah, that's fine. Anybody want to share what they're...
Susie White says that financial hopelessness is huge these days.
Fear and feelings of unloved and unwanted.
Amanda Ryder, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to say about the video and the I have a lot in this in my past, and it touched home of understanding more of a grasp of the incident, you know, like with my child, of understanding more in depth of why, and understanding why of circumstances that happened. I seen barcode when it said the young age, she was 13. So that it's making me understand a lot more. So
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Crystal, one thing I would say is that we talk about being a hope dealer a lot, but that's a really good example of ways to be a hope dealer. The things you can say and the things that you can, the ways you can show up for people, even without them having to ask for it. I thought that was lovely.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons I chose that video is it's coming from a place of people of all areas and backgrounds. And you look at people and say, well, you must have it all together. You know, that lady on there. She's an LPC. She struggles. She still struggles. And it's okay. I think it helps us to know that we can't compare ourselves to each other. And it gives us an insight on the person who is troubled. And yeah, like you said, you can just sit with somebody, just watch a show. My daughter, she allows me to share some of her stories. She too struggled with suicide for a long time. Excuse me. And the teens of this generation are different than ours. Social media is, it's not the best for them. And they will sit on the phone with each other for hours. And as parents, I know I was frustrated. You got to get off the phone. You got to get off the phone. But that was their lifeline. And so now we know they just sit with each other from their own homes on the phone. And I had to take a step back and realize, oh, that is their community. That is their communication. It's okay. So I was glad to hear that from the young man in the video. Anybody else want to share? Okay, let's go back to this slide. Excuse me, on 23. There we go. Protective factors. What does this mean? How are we going to prevent suicide? Or how are we going to protect against it? So this is a portrayal from Betty Hardrick Center and her website, and it talks about effective treatment for mental health, physical, substance abuse, all those things, supporting for access to clinical interventions, to therapy, seeking skills for problem solving and conflict resolution. Those are all three, the one on the left, the right, and then underneath that, those are all about clinical help. But what about interpersonal? So on the left, a sense of connectedness, feeling supported, feeling a part of the community, feeling belongingness. Maslow's hierarchy, one of the hierarchy pieces is to feel like you belong somewhere. And a lot of times the communities that we're working with, they do feel lost. They've burnt bridges. They don't feel like they're in a place of healing. And then there's the belief in the very bottom there, belief in instincts for self-preservation. Do you believe that you can overcome? And a lot of times the answer is no. So this is where we are those hope dealers, as Alvin reminded us. So suicide warnings, let's go to the next one. Talking about suicide, the expressions of hopeless feelings, changes in our behavior. These are all warning signs. Our mood, anything that has changed from your usual. If you've got the words, the language that you're using, is your talk different? Do you hear people talking about, I just can't go on? Do you hear people talking about it's just too much? That's a different talk than, maybe the day before or the month before when you saw someone. Or is their mood changed? And we all know about behavior changes. This is the area that we work in mostly, is behavior. So warning signs, it says something to look out for when concerned that a person may be suicidal is a change in behavior or the presence of entirely new behaviors. This is one of the sharpest concerns if the new or changed behavior is related to a painful event, loss, or a change. Most people who take their lives exhibit one or more warning signs, either through what they say or what they do. And that's a reference from American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So notice that it said most people who take their lives exhibit one or more. Just one sign is enough. Has their talk changed? That's just one sign is all you need to say. I need to ask this person if they're okay. All right, go to the next slide. Here are 5 action steps This is from the National Institute on Mental Health, and they give us action steps for what to do. Ask the question, are you thinking about killing yourself? That is the question. It's not, do you think you're going to harm yourself? Have you thought about hurting yourself? Those are good questions. And they're good door openers for having a conversation, or if you don't know the person, to kind of get warmed up and let them open up. But the question we got to eventually get to is, are you thinking about suicide, or are you thinking about killing yourself? Number 2 is just to be there. Listen without judgment. Validate their feelings. I hear what you're saying. I hear you feel lost. I hear you feel alone. It must be hard going through what you're going through. And just be with them. Number 3 is to help keep them safe. Now, it says to reduce their access to lethal means and places, and we may not be in that place with them. We may not be. This could be for family if you're, in a home with someone, or you have a friend that has items in the home that it needs to be taken out. But what if you just hear about their lethal means? That's information that you can carry to the next person. So remember that we're not doing this alone. We're not necessarily doing all of it. It's going to take a team of people. Maybe I'm the person that's going to ask the question, and I'm listening for signs and cues and things that I need to tell the next person. Maybe I need to tell this to the 988 agent and let them know, yeah, they talked about, they carry around a knife in their purse. So just do what you can for your part. Number 4 is to help them connect. And we keep talking about 988. There's other connections that you can use, but that's the dispatch. It's working really well. Number 5 is follow up. There is power in the follow up. So depending on your agency, you may not be able to reach out to people, but if you can give them your information, if they're allowed to call your business, or if you're allowed to call them back and check on them, that follow up is powerful because it lets them to feel like they are absolutely connected in some way. And then get them some resources. Get them connected in other areas. They need other connections. They need peer support. There's many peer centers around the state. So get them what they need in that way. And also maybe find them a counselor or a clinical agency, whatever it is that they need. So let's go to the next screen. I think I'll have Jennifer, if you'll read that one, 26 for us.
Crystal, someone asks, what if someone states that they don't want to kill themselves, but they don't want to live anymore?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I believe that at this point, so that is a difference. If you don't want to kill yourself, but you don't want to live anymore, it's not saying that you have a plan. It's not saying that you have intention. And this is when we get to, okay, we need to get them to a clinician or a support group or someone that can help them process those thoughts of, I just don't want to live. Well, why don't you want to live? What would make it better? What would be better for you and make you have the desire to live again? What can we help you to remove? So I think that's when you need to get them to clinical help, but you can't make them. You have to ask. So that question will be, how can I help you remedy that? How can I help you get to a place where you feel like you do want to live?
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to move on to this slide. I know we're running out of a little bit of time here. Have an honest conversation. Talk with them in private. Let them know that you're there for them. Listen to their story. Sit and listen, really listen. Tell them that you care about them, and ask directly if they're thinking about suicide. Encourage them to seek treatment or contact their doctor or therapist, and avoid debating the value of life, minimizing their problems, or giving advice. If you know somebody is at risk, ask the question, are you thinking about killing yourself, or are you thinking about suicide? Self-harm is not the same. If you cannot ask the question, do not have shame. Stay with the person and find someone who can ask. Be the hope that you can be in those moments.
Awesome. Thank you. And that also came from American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, a great resource on advocacy and learning how to talk to people who are at risk. And there's
so self-harm can also lead to suicide when self-harm is no longer an effective coping method. And in a crisis situation, self-harmers may view a suicide attempt as less frightening. Because self-harm can become suicide, is highly recommended that every patient who self-harm be assessed for suicide risk. So self-harm is not suicide, but it may become suicide. If they accidentally hurt themselves too much, it can cause suicide.
And the next slide just talks about, again, it just reiterates what to do if a person is considering. Oh, I skipped one. I apologize. Okay, what not to do and what to do. So on the right, it gives us do's and don'ts. This is something from the Harris Center that they put together. It's a really good tool if you want to click that on your phone and remind yourself of what to do and not to do. I'm just going to read this on the left. It talks about don't debate your feelings. Don't debate, I'm sorry, their feelings. Don't debate their beliefs. It's not about what I need to say. It's about what they need to say. Don't lecture about their choice to live or not. Again, it's about their situation. Don't dare them. There are people you wouldn't even believe. When I do the QPR training, I have people come on that will say, well, I just told them go ahead and do it. If they're going to, act out, if they're going to be that way, you cannot dare someone to commit suicide. And that also brings me to when someone says, well, they're just acting out for attention. My response is, yes, they are. And we better pay attention to their acting out. They need help. Do not act shocked. That will turn someone away quickly. Do not swear to secrecy. Don't say, I won't tell anybody if you just be honest with me. We're mandated. We have to report. And that's not helpful to their situation. Do not devalue their issues at hand. So maybe they've got a lot going on and we don't want to just say, oh, well, you'll be okay tomorrow. You sure it's that bad? That's not helpful. What not to ask. So the question is, are you considering suicide? Are you thinking about killing yourself? What not to ask. You're not thinking about doing something stupid, are you? You don't have a plan to kill yourself, do you? So let's talk real quick in the chat. Why are these questions not valid?
So Gail Rogers said, you can ask if the person is self-harming if it's with the intent to end their life.
Absolutely. And you can ask the question if they're planning to self-harm or if they are self-harming.
Selena Johnson says, sounds very judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
And a negative connotation. So yes, it's very negative. These sound judgmental to me. And these are the questions, what not to ask, just as a reminder to everybody.
Yes.
The questions are negative, I agree. Another thing to keep in mind is that AI can be hazardous. Questions have been found to lead to SA. That's true. So these questions are insensitive to their feelings. It can make the person shut down. Absolutely.
And so I'll add to that it makes them think you want them to say no. It makes them possibly have more fear because you might have been their hope, but now they are back on their fear. It also tells them that you may be incompetent. You may not be the person that can help them. So the question again is, are you thinking about killing yourself? Are you thinking about suicide? Okay, next slide. We're almost there, you guys. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so this is just another one. You can take a snapshot of this if you'd like, what to do if a person is considering suicide. It gives you the National Suicide Prevention Hotline or Lifeline and their chat to text. So it's similar to 988. And let's go to that closing next. So just remember that most people who are overwhelmed and they do want help, but they're feeling hopeless. We are the hope agents that can be an active listener to someone who needs and offer assistance where needed. Learn the action steps. Figure out what they are for you. What can you do? What kind of action step can you take? And practice asking the question. I teach people, you know what, do it in a mirror, do it in your car mirror, talk the question with your pets, do it with your best friend, do it with your coworkers. Learn to hear your voice say that question, because it can be uncomfortable at first. Say the question as much as you can, and so that you kind of feel more prepared and confident. And being prepared, I'll obtain further training for confidence and be a willing helper in times of trouble. Jennifer?
Next slide. So this life, this night, your story, your pain, your hope, it matters. All of it matters.
Nice. Okay, so that slide didn't come over. I'm going to I had our information in there, and I apologize. I'm going to put it right here in the chat.
I can also send it out with the certificates.
There's that. Did that come up? Okay, so there's our information, myself and Jennifer, if you need us. And I'm gonna go to the next slide. Here are the reference links from today. And there are the resources if you want to take a snapshot of that. This is tons of resources for suicide awareness and advocacy, and how to ask the questions and where to get training, stories and videos and things that you can share, all kinds of things. It's amazing how much information is out there and free and for our use. The last slide I want to give you is and so you don't need to send anything over, Alvin, just as a note. This very last slide, if you guys want to take that link. So this is frequently asked questions from the National Institute for Mental Health on suicide, and it gives a lot of what we talked about today. So if you take that link, you can pull up a booklet and it will come directly to you. Pretty good booklet there.
Crystal, can you put that link in the chat?
Absolutely. Let's do that. There you go.
Perfect.
And then lastly, I just want to thank you all for participating. We can have time for Q&A right now if you'd like. And I just want to encourage you, as I read this, never to take for granted how important your role is in helping someone in crisis and being a hope agent within your community. You may be the only listener in that person's life, and your asking the suicide question might be the open dialogue that saves their life. So be encouraged in your role.
Crystal, we have a question from Mark Jones. Do you have any links to help survivors for people who have had loved ones that committed suicide? And that's a great question.
Absolutely a great question. And so if you'll go back to that resource page, let me look at that with you. I believe, take that resource page, because when you go in there, those websites, Let's see which one has it. I believe the one for American Suicide Prevention, I believe that has survivors information. I'm almost positive that 988 has it as well. And that last one, Voices for Prevention, they have advocacy tools, and I believe they have ally information. But go through this list and just pull it up. You'll go through their website and look through the menus. You'll find something on there.
Would someone else like to ask a question? You can raise your Zoom hand, and I'll call on you. We have about 10 more minutes. Crystal, thank you. This is a difficult topic for us to wade out into. And I appreciate your gentleness and your resources that you've provided for this, because those will always be incredibly important in something like this. Mark Jones.
Yeah, I want to thank y'all for this presentation. The reason I signed up for it about 4 years ago, I had a friend that came over, and he was really troubled. I've known this guy since he was a little baby, and I could tell he was troubled. And I tried all day long to get him to talk to me, and he just refused to talk about what he was going through. And we went to his house the next morning to see how he was doing, and found him hanging in his kitchen. And you know, listening to this presentation, I realized that the one thing I didn't do was ask him if he was considering suicide. And, you know, that might have been the one thing that might have helped. I don't know. It's, you know, I know it was a very traumatic experience, and it's something that still bothers me today, that I wasn't able to help him knowing that he needed help.
So thank you so much for sharing that. I just want to, and I have to say this, I'm so sorry that you experienced that. It's such a hard thing. And I want to say this to you and to everyone who may be experiencing that kind of, you know, shame or survivor's guilt. You cannot be blamed for something you did not know. And I hope that hits your heart in a healing space, that even though you know now, you didn't know then, it's okay. You still were there for him. You had a heart of concern for him. Okay.
So Carol Humphrey has her hand raised as well. Carol?
Yes, Carol.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much for this subject matter. For me, it is somewhat uncanny because last week I just wrapped up a whole year of a partnership with Michigan State, in which suicide prevention was what I partnered with them for a whole year. And it was like, Carol, it's a year later and we're at the end of our study. And I was like, wow. And it's because like that just wrapped up, and then I'm on this webinar. So I think it's very important for me to take a cue on that, and to be more aware of maybe that in some of my peers or even family members. Thank you so much for your time and your service.
Thank you, Carol. And if you want to look on that resource, there's some more training for you there. That's, you know, if you're looking to go in that direction to continue on as an advocate, keep going. Thank you for what you're doing.
Selena Johnson.
I just kind of wanted to touch on what Mark had said. As someone who has 3 generations of completed suicide, my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, I've attempted suicide. One of the things I wanted to remind everybody is that sometimes you can give the numbers, you can ask them to reach for help, you can say all the right things and be there, and they still make that choice. And that's one of the parts of being of service to people who are having thoughts of suicide, is knowing that perhaps there's something I can do. But if there isn't, I've got to go to bed knowing I did everything I could within my power.
Selena, thank you for sharing, and for sharing your story.
So Crystal, one thing, if anyone else wants to raise their hand, they're welcome to. I served as a chaplain at UAB Medical Center the year before I became a peer there. And we talked a lot about grief in the pastoral care trainings that we had. What I took from that is that the very best way to support someone going through grief is to be there in the next room available, but not go in and let them come out to me if they wanted to talk about something. So I really like that this has connected the grief that we experience to the pain that they're experiencing also, because as people who are connected to them, we're always going to be impacted when something like this happens. And that happened to me during that time when I was a resident at UAB. My landlord had a roommate, had a nephew who came in to find a place to live, and we had to make room for him in the house that we were staying in. And he went out to do a training. He was going to do a truck driver training, and his physical pain related to his hip kept him from being able to take that training. And when he came back, he killed himself the next day. So there was no hint that this was going to happen. And it was really the idea that he felt like he didn't have any other place to go, and had gotten to the end of the road, I think was what was in his mind. And I had to use my chaplain skills at home in addition to using them in the hospital. And it was really, really difficult. So thank you again for bringing that up. And again, I'm still struck by the idea of those examples of how to be a hope dealer, what you can say to give hope to someone. And those are great examples. That was a really good video.
Awesome. Thank you, Alvin, and thank you for sharing that part of your story. That's powerful. I'll just give one more resource too for grief, because we do have trauma. We do have all these things that we need to recover from, but the grief is long lasting, and sometimes it can be prolonged, and sometimes it just doesn't go away. One of the things that I share with many of my clients is we do clinical work. We do all the deep work, but I need them to get in a group for grief. And there's something called Grief Share all around the state. And Grief Share are small group settings that are free. And I think you pay $15 for a booklet or whatever, but it's similar to peer groups. Your people are sharing like we're doing right now. We're sharing our grief, we're sharing our loss, we're sharing our death losses, we're sharing those things in a way that we can help encourage and build each other up and know that we're not alone in our situations. So yes, if you have someone that's got prolonged grief or has had a loss and they're comfortable with sitting in a group kind of setting, offer Grief Share, and I'll put that right here. I believe it's .com. I believe it's .com, and then you'll just put your zip code in and find an area, call and see if they have an active group going.
Crystal, before we end, I wanted to point out that Susie White, she said, I have a friend that suffers from intense pain in his body. He has lost all hope and is talking about overdosing. I've let him know that I love him and that I'm there for him. I'm not sure what else to do. He has a therapist, but it doesn't seem to help him.
Yeah, so I think that needs an immediate attention, that he may need to be in a safe place. I don't know if he's had crisis center help or not. Sometimes that's re-traumatizing. Encouraging him to get into a peer group, doing what you're doing, offering hope is great. And usually that can help, but this person probably needs more collaboration around him to take away the urges of wanting to overdose.
Does anyone else have a question? Well, I think we can go ahead and wrap up then.
Okay.
Crystal, thank you for so gently taking us into this difficult topic. It's a hard thing to bring up. That's one of the reasons that we need things like this.
Thanks for it's very, very good information.